The Digital Photography Cafe show is brought to you by Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool for your camera.
Welcome to the Digital Photography Cafe show. Join host Trevor Current and Joseph Christina as they serve up the hottest photography news and commentary.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is episode 174. I'm Joseph Christina here with my co-host Trevor Current. On last week's show, we went back in time to look at the hottest products, services, and topics of 2014. If you haven't watched last week's show, I encourage you to do so. You can find it at digitalphotographycafe.com and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/dphotocafe. Listen with the popular Stitcher, TuneIn, and Xbox music apps, or subscribe through iTunes or RSS.
Hey, Joe, we're back. How you doing, man?
We are here yet another week.
Yes.
It's a new year, new week.
First show of the new year.
Yeah, exciting.
Yeah,
I'm
2015.
excited. Yeah, we got some interesting things that we're thinking about doing this year, but we'll kind of throw that at you guys at a later date. This is going to be more of a newsy, I think, show. There's a lot of stuff going on the other coast of us, right?
Yeah, yep. CES and PMA were going on this past week. There was a lot of news that came out of it, of course, a lot of tech news. And, you know, we're not necessarily going to, obviously we want to try and stay more photocentric, things that really matter to us as photographers. So, you know, you've probably seen the news with all the TVs and camcorders and all that good stuff. But, you know,
drones.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of tackle some other things, and starting with Nikon. This isn't necessarily a CES announcement. It's a service warranty announcement for the D750.
Yeah, it's a big camera, big release.
Yeah.
And they're having problems with flare.
Yeah.
I guess it's time for them to fix something. Nikon has to come in there and say, you know what, it's, this is an issue. Nikon's usually good with that. If there is a problem, usually they'll jump in there and they'll fix it. They did have a problem a while back we talked about with the oily sensor thing.
Yeah, on the D600, right?
Yeah, and they were a little bit, let's say, slow to jump in there and fix it. But once they did, they jumped in.
Oh, they committed full bore, yeah. They were either replacing it or upgrading you to the 610. I mean, they definitely made good on it as far as what I've heard and the announcements and everything. But this one, they're also going to offer free repairs on this. The issue happens when you have a light source high in the frame. You end up getting this flare in your image.
It's a weird looking flare too, not like a normal. It's like a
right. It's not a desired flare. So what you're doing is you're sending your camera back. They'll inspect it, they'll test it, and if they deem it that it is that problem, they will fix it and send it back to you free of charge.
Yeah, they're definitely on it this time.
Yeah,
with all that negative press that happened last year, so that's good.
Yeah, they can't afford any more negative press. So
no. So moving on, some more Nikon news. The D5500. This sounds kind of interesting, and it kind of goes along the idea that we had for years now that we've talked about on the show. And we said, you know, eventually, what happens in the consumer side happens in the pro side. And this is not necessarily a pro camera, but you could use it as one, especially these days. But they have a really nice backside to it, which is a touch sensitive screen, which we said that is going to be on all DSLRs eventually. All Nikons, all Canons, they will have touch screen, and they will be articulating too, right?
Yeah, which this is. It's a vari-angle screen. It's a 3.2-inch LCD, and similar characteristics to our smartphones. You can tap to focus. You can pinch to zoom in and check your focus. You can tap for your shutter release, and then you have your menu options where you can go in and make other adjustments to the camera. So it's really cool. 24.2 megapixel CMOS DX format. So we are the crop sensor.
Yes.
24.2 megapixels. I mean, that's a lot of pixels on a crop.
Sure.
But that's kind of what everybody's doing nowadays. So that's not bad. And they're saying that it's one of the smallest DSLRs that Nikon's ever had. So,
yeah,
it's good if you're looking for more of that compact thing,
Yeah, yeah, or maybe a secondary, camera for shooting.
Sure.
Maybe something smaller that you're not having to break your back with. That you might have your quote unquote the good camera, and you want a little crop sensor. I like the crops for getting those long shots where you're in the back of, let's say, a synagogue or a church or something, and you need to throw on, let's say, a 200 millimeter, but you need it to be more like a 300.
Right, right.
Throw it on the crop, and now you got that extra length, and you can grab the distance. There's definitely places for it. I am a full sensor kind of guy, but I do have crop too for specific use. But I do like this. I do like it a lot that they are moving into this, because we talked about it. It seems like it's going to be. I can't tell you how many events I've done where I've shown someone the back of the camera, and they look at the picture and they can't really see it too well, and they go and they grab and they start pinching and
they just think it's a touchscreen. Yeah, it's a color LCD. It's got to be all the. Yeah, it's like my iPhone.
5D Mark III, 5D Mark II. No, it's not gonna work. But they do that all the time. It's the funniest thing. It's just nature now. It's just you want to pinch and pull this stuff or double tap or whatever to get in, and it doesn't work.
Right, right.
So, but anyways, moving on. There is actually some more Nikon news, which is crazy. 3 stories in a row, but it's all good stuff. Well, this is more, I guess, kind of rumor. It's leaked. Nikon stuff, right?
Yeah, a leaked press release that was actually scheduled to go live January 19th. So, things may change. I mean,
there could be modifications.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We're still, more than a week away, but they're coming out with a new program, and it's called I Am Advancing. And the idea being is that Nikon is trying to build up that consumer loyalty again, that customer loyalty. And, they've again, we've just said they've taken some hits in the past, and now they're trying to build that. And Fuji has had a program similar to this where you can actually upgrade your firmware in the cameras and get new features that the camera didn't initially ship with. So the firmware updates are more than just fixing a bug or something like that. This is actually adding new features. So Nikon's coming out with a similar program that will allow you to utilize the existing hardware with these new software features.
Yeah, I think it was the last time that we were in New York for the show. We ended up seeing that Fuji and looking at it and seeing the different things that it can do, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you take a picture, it immediately upload it into the web, make it available to your client or your customer, whoever, maybe for purchase or whatever it is. And this type of functionality was built into the firmware, which was upgradable. So yeah, and we talked about this way back. It was like a year or more ago, and we said that all cameras will eventually have this, and we will see this will definitely become the case. Eventually, Canon will do the same thing, which will kind of release, let's say, proprietary firmware, release it and allow people to do modifications to it. For right now, with Nikon, it's going to be their own modified versions that you can download. But as soon as you can go and download a new firmware, there's going to be people to hack that firmware and do their own thing with it. And you know what? I think it's fine. I think it's great. Because there's so many things that you can do that is not being done with these cameras. Now, by having that ability, it's awesome. Especially for
Magic Lantern,
the tinkerer, the guy that wants to get in there and play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Magic Lantern has done stuff like this with the firmware for a while now, and being able to add additional features to the Canons and stuff. And yeah, I like this. So Nikon's actually going to be coming out with a new manager software app for your Mac or PC that will allow you to do these firmware updates a little bit easier, rather than a hodgepodge of, doing this and a song and a dance and everything else. It's going to streamline. And if there's any other firmware updates, they'll all be consolidated through this manager application and allow you to do them all in one shot.
Yeah, I can imagine that's probably mostly for just trying to, grab the reins on it. So not everyone is doing it. It has to go through that, and it probably authenticates and stuff. Yeah, I'm going to guess.
And consumer ease of use as well. So,
right.
Right now, there's like 6 cameras, I think, that are being supported, the higher end cameras. And from what the press release was kind of alluding to, kind of saying, is that there's already some features in the works that are going to kind of be released that will allow you to upgrade your cameras.
Yeah. More features that are already built in that they'll just turn on and
Yeah.
activate. So that's very cool.
Yep.
So moving on, Toshiba. Now this is kind of interesting. Now NFC is big. It's been big ever since Android years and years ago, but now all of a sudden, of course, Apple has NFC in their phones. So now NFC is big, and people are figuring out what NFC is. So kind of interesting here. So Toshiba comes up with the absolute first SD card that has not only memory for the SD card, but it also has NFC built in.
Right.
That is so cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, other cards have had Wi-Fi built in,
Right.
That would allow sharing and the transfer of the data. But what NFC does is it kind of adds another layer that allows for viewing of the data on the card. So you can actually put it in your camera, shoot some pictures, and with an app on your Android device, you can actually view the pictures in the card without having to take the card out of the camera. And then, of course,
Right.
you know, I'm sure that you'll be able to share and everything from there as well.
Yeah, the key thing is Android.
Yeah.
So it seems like they're doing the Android Play, where it's going to be a Google Play only app as far as goes right now.
Right.
What I just find is interesting here is that it's Toshiba that's doing this. It's not like one of the major brands. It's not like SanDisk, or maybe even one of the main brands like a Canon or
Right.
Nikon to actually do it. It's very interesting. Like it makes me think, what does Toshiba have in the works? Because it just doesn't make sense. But either which way, the price is TBA, so we really don't know as of right now, but it will be released in an 8 gig, 16 gig, and 32 gig variant in February of this year. So right around the corner, something to look into for sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And you know what? Why not have another manufacturer in the game providing something that, you know, maybe we can utilize in a different way?
Absolutely, absolutely. Sorry, Trev. Listen, we need to go on break, but we'll be back with a lot of other good stories. We got a bunch this week for sure.
Yeah.
So anyways, we're going to take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors.
Are you frustrated with slightly out of focus images when you know your autofocus spot was dead on? It's simply not your fault. From manufacturer to manufacturer, and even lens copy to lens copy, there are slight variances to the exact spot where light is being focused onto the sensor. Finally, there's a product that allows you to compensate for those variances and make sharper images immediately. Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool, is an absolute must for every photographer. If you want to make the sharpest images possible, then you need to take control over your camera's focusing system. With the Focus Pyramid, you can calibrate all of your lenses on your lunch break. The Focus Pyramid makes lens calibration quick and easy at an affordable price. So give your lenses a new lease on life and take your photography to the next level. Head over to focuspyramid.com/DPC and get an additional 10% off just for being a show listener.
All right, we're back. And here's some really good news. You know, we talk about these drones all the time, and we've talked in the past about the FAA cracking down on the use of the drones for commercial business. So a lot of photographers that thought that they were going to add these drones to their business are kind of getting the kibosh put on them, you know?
Yeah.
And so now there, I guess, has been some FAA applications that you could put in for authorization to use these drones. And a realtor out of Tucson, Arizona, is the first real estate agent to actually get certified and approved to be able to fly one of these drones to photograph the real estate properties, so for commercial use.
Can you imagine? It's finally one of us. It's a photographer, a real estate photographer that gets that. So my understanding, there was 214 what they're called as exemptions.
Yeah.
It's not even like like a privilege. It's an exemption to whatever the ordinance is or whatever the law is.
Right.
So 214 exemptions were filed and only 14 granted, and one of the 14 is one of us. It's a photographer. So yeah, congratulations to this guy out of Tucson. I think that's absolutely wonderful. The thing though that kind of I don't like about it is that, the stipulations that the FAA puts on this stuff is just simply ridiculous. So for him to have this quote unquote, or is granted this exemption, he has to have an FAA private pilot certificate, as well as a current medical certificate at all times. And there has to be someone, a quote-unquote observer, watching during the entire thing. So a secondary party also watching.
Right.
I don't know. What do you think?
The second party watching, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Two sets of eyes are always better than one.
Right.
The FAA private pilot certificate, I think that's a bit much. I think understanding the rules of, what a drone needs to follow, I think is important, and they should put some stipulations in place for that. But private pilot certificate, I'm not a pilot, so maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but that seems kind of extensive. To have to learn like the rules of the air that a pilot needs to follow seems a little bit crazy, because it's not like we're in these drones flying around. We're on the ground. This tiny little thing is up in the air.
So maybe this certificate has nothing to do with that. Maybe it's just simply rules and regulations that you have to know, which is possible.
Right.
But then you add on to a medical certificate. Like if you fall over dead, what, your drone's going to go and kill someone also? It's a little bit far reaching, but this is what government does, right?
Yeah.
They give it with one hand, they take it all the way to your, shoulder with the other hand. That's just how they work. For me, it would be very, to me, look, the FAA should just simply do this. I would just, everything, for example, GPS and altimeters have been around for quite some time. Mm-hmm. They could simply mandate that whichever drone that you're flying must have an altimeter built in, or some type of go home feature, that if it goes above X number of feet, it comes home. It goes back to
or it's
0.
like a governor on a motor.
Or it's a governor, and it
limits
doesn't go
the
any
height
higher.
that it can fly.
So if, planes aren't flying at 500 feet, and if they are, they're probably crashing or landing. Okay, so you can't, fly a drone X number of miles around airport anyways.
Right.
Okay, you can't fly nothing. It's the bottom line is, if they would put some type of altimeter or some type of mandated GPS with altimeter on there, they can mandate it that this must be on there. This governor, so to speak, must be on there, and that's it. Yeah. Very simple. It only flies up to 500 feet high, or it only flies up to 1,000 feet, whatever their mandate is, and then that's it. Yeah. Because if it goes above, it comes home. If it does X, Y, and Z, it comes home.
Right.
If you fall to your death, it comes home.
Yeah.
Many of them are set up so that if the transmitter or the transponder dies, it comes home.
Right.
So your batteries go dead, it comes home. Just put these safeguards in there, and you don't have to go nuts. Yeah. And then the 214 don't have to be only 14 that received it. It could be 214 just with this mandate. So, it's just typical government stuff. But listen, props to the guy. This is the first realtor that can actually advertise. I am the only certified, FAA certified pilot photographer that can actually do these aerial shoots of houses or of buildings. Hire me. Yeah. So, that's right. 2 thumbs up to him. That's really, really great.
That's cool. Yeah, so LaCie came out with a new rugged drive, but this is a RAID drive, which is pretty cool. This actually has 2 drives built into the case. And it can run, it's got 2 2-terabyte drives. So, that's a lot of storage. And
I have one of these. Not this specific one, but I do have the LaCie ruggedized, that orange. It looks like, Bob's Barricades or a cone.
Yeah.
You can't miss it. It's awesome. We talked about it on a few shows back. I do recommend it because it's just that awesome. And this one looks really interesting. So, guys, by having those 2 2-terabyte drives in there, and having a RAID basically built in, what this allows you to do is either RAID 1 or RAID 0 it. So you could either use it so that you get, let's say, 3.5 terabytes. Let's just call it 4 terabytes by using the plates right across from start to finish. And what that will do is it will speed things up. So that would be like striping the drive. Or you can go RAID 1 and use it for mirroring or redundancy.
Right.
So when you go and write your photos onto this drive, it's actually writing the photos twice. So now you actually have a copy within this single unit. Obviously, if you use you lose the unit, that's going to be out. But if the hard drive
with
dies,
hardware malfunction or failure, if one of the drives goes.
If both drives goes, well, then you're pretty much done. But if one gets weak and now all of a sudden starts writing errors, you still have the other one because it's redundant backup. For me, I can see this as a stripe drive where you're using, let's say, 3.5 terabytes of data, fast as hell, for, let's say, video in the field. Because this has the USB 3 plug in the back, but it also has the plug for Thunderbolt.
Right.
So they're talking up to, what was the speed? It was something like crazy, 240
megabytes per second.
That's sick.
Yeah,
and they were saying that's equivalent to 64 gig memory cards. Remember, 64 gig memory cards of space that that you can transfer, and it will do it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I know. Can you imagine that? I mean, you know how slow the normal stuff is. So it's really cool. Very, very cool. Nice technology. They're saying second quarter 2015 for like $450, but that always kind of meanders around as far as pricing goes, right?
Yeah, even if that's the initial launch price, I mean, there will be sales and that price will come down over time anyway. And other people will get into this game as well. These little portable RAID hard drives, and these ruggedized drives. So there's going to be other manufacturers putting these out as well. But right now, it looks pretty good. Yeah, exactly.
Like G-RAID has been around forever. Yep. I swear by G-RAID. I have G-RAIDs here in the office, and I absolutely love them. So, but in the field, just LaCie, I definitely would recommend it. Very, very cool. Good product for sure. So moving on, Kodak, right?
Yeah, Kodak.
And it's not film.
No, it's not film. They actually announced their the first smartphone by the company. And it's really more of a photocentric Android-powered phone. So, thank God a photography company is actually making a photocentric smartphone. But, it's interesting because obviously, the days of film are gone. There are fine artists and other people who still like to shoot film, and that's great. I fully support that. I think that's awesome. From a practicality standpoint, in today's commercial world, film just isn't going to work. It's just too expensive. But
too slow.
It's interesting that they're going into the smartphone space, and they kind of announced that they were going to do it last year, the end of last year, and now they officially announced that here's the phone and what they have to offer in a 5-inch HD screen and a 5 megapixel front side camera, and the back side camera is 13 megapixel.
Yeah, so not just a ton of megapixels here. So I don't really, when you see some of these Androids with like 50 megapixels and just craziness, right?
Yep.
Doing 4K video and all this kind of stuff, I really don't get it. But maybe these are just, 13 megapixels, then they're really good pixels. I don't know.
So.
I mean, Kodak
if they're gearing it as a photocentric smartphone, then that camera better be really good. Really good 13 megapixel. Because we know megapixels really mean nothing these days. It's just size of sensor and quality of the sensor and the software that's interpolating those little dots. So they're saying 32 gigabyte SD, micro SD you can throw in there. Now, what I find fascinating with this story is the price. And the price they're saying at about $249. And Trev, I know we've talked about this recently, and it's the whole iPhone thing. And seeing, like, for example, an iPhone 6 Plus at like $799 fully loaded or whatever. Yeah,
crazy
unlocked phone. Not subsidized.
Unlocked. I mean, non-subsidized.
Right.
Now, the thing here, it's interesting you say that. The thing is there's not going to be subsidized phones very, very much longer. AT&T is completely done away with their contracts. They're no longer subsidizing phones. What that means is if you want the cheaper monthly rate, you have to get out of your contract and go with their family program, blah, 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 whatever, the non-subsidized. That's all great. My bill went from like $200 or $280 down to like $180 a month. I saved like $100 a month. The thing is they're no longer subsidized the phones that I own. So if I want to go from, let's say, an iPhone 5S and I want to go to 6, I'm going to have to buy that phone. And we know the phones are just stupid priced. I mean,
Yeah.
just crazy. You're looking at $400 or $500 on like a 5C. Never mind a 5S, and then even the 6s are now like 600 plus, all the way up to like $800 for a phone. I really think this type of thing where you're seeing these phones at like $250, you're going to start seeing that sweet spot where people are going to start purchasing phones at a lower price, because normal folks cannot buy an $800 iPhone 6 Plus. They just don't have that kind of money. And once it's no longer subsidized, what do you have left to do?
Yeah, well, that's it. You don't really have a choice. And if this does become the norm, where the carriers are not going to subsidize phones because they're losing money or whatever, you're going to see the more expensive phones have to come down in price, especially in the Apple camp. I mean, you know, we talked on previous shows, and I think even the last show, about Apple Pay. You know, Apple Pay is becoming already a big portion of Apple's business, and in the future, it's going to be even bigger.
Right.
And, you know, Apple may really have to take a cue from Microsoft, like with the Xboxes first came out. You know, they were like losing money on those units, but they knew that they would make it up on the software and the Xbox Live subscriptions and things like that. So that's why they did it. And Apple is kind of in the same camp. I mean, they're going to sell tons of music in the App Store. You know, they're going to sell tons of apps. Plus, they're going to make a lot of money off Apple Pay. So it may benefit them to bring those prices of their good phones down, or make one of these, you know, phone for everybody type of things where it's just a less expensive iPhone, you know, maybe not quite as high quality made, but you know it's going to have the NFC built in it, the Apple Pay built in it, the fingerprint identity. You know, it'll just be a plastic body. It'll basically be like the 5C was.
Yeah, just like the 5C. Absolutely. Yep. Apple Pay, we predict that Apple Pay will be Apple's mainstay, where they make their bread and butter, you know, 2, 3, 4 years down the road. And I also believe that Apple will be a bank. I do see that. And at that point, the phone in your pocket, their goal will be to put an Apple phone into the pocket of everyone. In other words, a pay option using Apple Pay in the pocket of everyone. Right. And at that point, yes, they're going to need a cheaper phone. They're not going to be able to put an $800 phone into everyone's pocket. It's just not going to happen. And especially the subsidized are gone. You know, there's no more subsidies. So, yeah, I definitely see that being the case. And I agree. Microsoft did it, you know, with Xbox. People, you know, companies that really know, they have a vision. They know where they can lose money to make it later. And
make it up on volume.
Yeah, and Xbox was one of those that looked at Sony and said, you know what, PS2, PS3, now PS4, we need something like that, and we're going to make it so that it becomes a mainstay of the living room. And not only is it going to be an Xbox that just simply plays games, but it's going to be their media center and does everything. They'll be able to buy through it. They're going to be able to communicate through it. They'll be able to talk to people as well as you know, voice as well as video chat with people, and use it as a full media setup. And that's what they've done.
That's what the Xbox One is. I mean, that's the way we set it up in our house. We do everything from it. You know, at nighttime before I, you know, ready to go up to bed, I just say, Xbox, turn off. And it turns the entire system down. It's awesome. I love it. Yeah.
So moving on, this is kind of a funny story. You know, I know one of your favorite people on earth is Justin Bieber.
You know it. I've got all of his music. I know.
I'm
like a screaming little girl.
I know. I know you showed me the inside of your office, and you had your Star Wars stuff on one side, and you had this huge life-size
Bieber
print
poster
of Justin
on
Bieber.
the other side. Absolutely.
Yeah, Bieber fever for Trevor. So, yeah, he's like the Calvin Klein guy now, right?
Oh, he's so manly too. You should see this photo, Joe. I mean, he's
beefy.
He looks like the Hulk.
Yeah.
This is beefy. Ridiculous. Yeah, somebody released, you know, kind of on the down low, that became, you know, popular now, this unretouched picture of Bieber and his skivvies, you know, being in his manly pose for this Calvin Klein. And bro, they totally went in and jacked him up, man. They gave him pecs, they gave him biceps, they stretched his tat out so it looked good, you know.
Yeah, don't forget, I mean, that butt is
amazing
now, and his package, I don't know what they did there. That thing is just, he's huge. I mean,
This
you need
is
to change.
so bad.
You need to change your poster. You need to use this one. This is the thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, you know, all joking aside, guys. You know, I've said this last week. I think in the week before. The thing is it's becoming so easy to take photos that the thing that sets the professional apart is what do we do after the fact with the photo?
Right.
When you look at this photo, they really did a good job. It's not like some, you know, some cheesy
Photoshop disaster.
Yeah,
type
Photoshop
photo, yeah.
craziness. I mean, they did pixel by pixel work on this,
Yeah.
and it really looks amazing.
It looks
Awesome
good.
work.
I mean, it's definitely pro looking for sure.
Yeah, so I really do believe that the photographer of tomorrow is really going to be the editor of tomorrow, because anyone can take a picture these days and get a pretty good shot out of the stuff that you just buy in a box from Costco or BJ's or wherever. So it's really, what do you do with it after? What albums do you create? How good are they?
And
You know,
not
what is your
everybody can
retouch?
edit like that. That
Not
is
everybody.
a skilled art.
It's an art.
Absolutely. I mean, the tools, Photoshop gives you the tools to do it, but it doesn't make it easy. I mean, you need to be educated on how to do it. You know, whereas a photo, I mean, anybody can grab a camera, set it on auto, point it at something, take a shot, and get something that looks pretty decent. Right. But this type of, this level of retouching is an art form in and of itself.
Yeah.
And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, if you can find people that are willing to pay for it, this will definitely set you apart as a creative. And you know, if you can be the person who does the retouching for the agency because you're that good, and maybe they don't have the talent on staff to do it, you know, this could be a way to set yourself apart in the coming year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right, listen, enough of the Bieber. You need to get out of here.
No more Bieber. That's right. Yeah, so let's roll, man. So if people want to connect with you outside of the show, what's the best way for them to reach it?
You guys can find me on Twitter, and that's at Joseph Christina, and that's Christina without an H.
Great, and you can connect with me on Twitter. It's at Trevor Curran.
So, all right, everyone, we are out of here for yet another week. You can get all the show notes from this episode by visiting digitalphotographycafe.com/174. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/dphotocafe. And we will see you next week.
You've been watching the Digital Photography Cafe show with Trevor Curran and Joseph Christina. Subscribe to our YouTube channel with any compatible device by visiting youtube.com/dphotocafe. Be sure to subscribe to our audio feed through iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Xbox Music apps, or through RSS. Visit digitalphotographycafe.com for show notes and to connect with your host.